Hi, my name is Liza Nesterova and I'm a reporter at Mediazona. Today I'm going to tell you about one of my most interesting prison correspondents, political prisoner Dmitry Talantov, a 64-year-old lawyer from Izhevsk. He was recently sentenced to 7 years in a penal colony for spreading fake news about the Russian army and inciting hatred. First of all, Dmitry Talantov is an experienced lawyer. He started his career back in the 80s, then worked as a judge for several years, but soon returned to the bar, to which he gave almost 40 years of his life, and in 1996 became president of the Udmurt Bar Association. After his arrest, the professional community supported him both in Russia and around the world. But first things first. Dmitry Talantov was detained in June 2022. On Facebook, he managed to write only 2 short posts. "I'm in handcuffs, they're taking me to the investigative committee, everyone," was the first post. Soon the second one followed. "Please inform everyone about my detention. I can hardly write without people of investigative committee of Udmurtskaya seeing me. I'm in handcuffs." That day, Talantov's own home, the homes of his relatives, and even the office of the Bar Association he headed were searched. A place where strictly confidential documents about the people whose rights Dmitry and his colleagues were defending were kept. The permission for the search was issued even by a court in Moscow, and the judge Sergei Khomyakov, of course, forbade to seize and copy materials of the cases of Talantov's clients, because investigative actions should not violate the attorney-client privilege. But he did not forbid reading them. An interesting fact about the search of Talantov's house. We've known for a long time that law enforcement agencies have taken the fashion of bringing their junior colleagues, who pretend to be random passers-by in no way connected with the investigation, as witnesses, who are supported to make sure that the search is conducted without violations. In the case of Dmitry Talantov, this is a confirmed fact. The first witness, Boris Tokiev, former head of the inquiry department, wrote for the newspaper Petrovka 38. And in 2002, Tokiev was sentenced to 2 years for falsifying evidence. The second witness is Mikhail Senkin, a TikToker under pseudonym Grisha Begudinsky. In the Get Contact app, which shows various names under which people save a particular number, he has a variety of signatures, such as Mishanya, bartender from the Ministry of Internal Affairs, Misha, canteen of the police, and Misha the bargainer. Both of witnesses naturally did not pay attention to outrageous behavior of investigator Panyutishev. During the search, Talantov's blood pressure rose. He is hypertensive. This was recorded by an ambulance doctor named Strelkov, but the investigator tried to force him to write in the protocol that everything was all right with Talantov's health. Panyutishev pressured the doctor for more than an hour, failed, and was not lazy to call his superiors, who also began to unsuccessfully pressurize the doctor, and then even sent a new team which had already written in the protocol everything that the investigator needed. Why were the investigators so furious all of a sudden? 2 months before all the searches, Dmitry Talantov reposted a publication with a photo of an elderly man on Red Square with a poster. "Peace to Ukraine, to Russia, sanity, horror, shame, repentance, Putin to hell." He accompanied the repost with the words, "What do you expect after the photos and videos from Kharkov, Mariupol, Irpin, Bucha? This is not fascism, this is an extreme Nazi practice. If after this the majority of my competitors will support the murderer Putin and his gang, I personally refuse to recognize them as people. People have the quality of compassion. These people are just stupid and evil scum." The investigators considered this to be fake news about the Russian army and opened a case. Of course, we don't know exactly how the prosecution of Dmitry Talantov began, but we would still like to preserve the names of the informers for history, even if their role is merely decorative. Shortly before the criminal case, Talantov was fined under the article of discrediting Russian army, also because of a Facebook post where he wrote that supporters of war have no place in the bar. After that, an appeal was sent to the administration of the Udmurt Republic, stating that the lawyer is conducting anti-Russian activities and promises to expel all those from the bar who support their people, the Russian army, and the president's decisions. The text almost verbatim repeals of the post of the lawyer Violeta Volkova, although the nominal informer is not her, but a woman who has never been found. The criminal case also had public informers. Blogger Roman Skomarokhov immediately reacted to Talantov's posts about the bombing of Ukrainian cities. He posted screenshots of Talantov's posts on the Military Observer website and promised to report the lawyer in the Prosecutor General's office and the FSB. It's worth noting when exactly Dmitry Talantov was prosecuted. I don't want to pretend that I can get into the sick heads of Russian law enforcers and say for sure. I hope that someday I'll be broadcasting online from the courts of those who fabricated political cases, where they themselves will tell us how it really went down. But Talantov found himself in pretrial detention when he was a lawyer for former journalist Ivan Safronov in case of state treason. I will definitely tell you about this case sometime, but for now I will just say that Talantov's arrest came just in the moment when he was supposed to present evidence of the journalist's innocence in court. By the way, Talantov turned out to be the third lawyer of Ivan Safronov who was prosecuted after entering the case. Following his arrest, more than 500 representatives of the legal community in Russia signed a letter in defense of Dmitry Talantov. The International Association of Russian Lawyers and International Bar Association made a public demand for his release. Representatives of the Russian Federal Chamber of Lawyers asked the court to choose a non-custodial measure of restraint for Talantov, but the court found that, being out of custody, I quote, knowing the intricacies of the law enforcement system, he could continue his criminal activities or go into hiding. That is, the justification for Talantov's arrest was literally his profession. It seems everyone who could spoke out in support of the lawyer. The UN Special Rapporteur, the European Parliament, Amnesty International, even the British band Pet Shop Boys, whose members wrote that they admired Talantov's bravery. But the repressive machine has no interest in any of this. Talantov, despite his age and heart problems, remained in the pretrial detention center. The facility was overcrowded with 600 people over its capacity, so the new arrivals slept on the floor in the aisles. There were simply no beds. Talantov refused to sleep on the floor, spent the night sitting on a bench, and told his lawyers about the horrible condition. After a media uproar, the guards did bring him a bed. And 2 months later, after fighting for a bed, Talantov was facing new charges. The prosecution decided that he not only disseminated fake news, but also incited hatred using his official position. The fake news accusation played out in a classic manner. What Talantov wrote did not correspond to the position of the Defense Ministry. However, the Defense Ministry's position was published after Talantov's posts. How could I make knowingly false, discrediting statements that do not correspond to the information of the Defense Ministry if they have not been published yet? The time is specified there. How is it to be understood? Talantov asked in court. But of course there is no answer to this question. The prosecutor's office asked for 12 years in prison. The court gave 7. In his closing statement, Talantov, addressing Judge Mitilyagin, whom he certainly knows from the trials where he worked as a lawyer, said, "In Russia you don't live that long, especially in prison and especially with my health." He will be able to return to the bar only 8 years after his release. Forgive me for all these procedural details, searching, investigation, courts. I can't help it. The years I've been working at Mediazona are essentially a multi-year course on how law should work and why it doesn't work. Sometimes I think that only lawyers are interested in talking to me. Dmitry Talantov is more interesting interlocutor than I am. He's incredibly well-read and always open to something new. I really appreciate his ability, which he has shown more than once in our correspondence, to simply say, "Oh, that's very interesting, but I don't know anything about it at all. Tell me more." Dmitry is very fond of poetry, especially Brodsky. Back in the pre-trial detention center, he wrote to me, "Here are you lying on a bunk in a stinky cell full of people, an hour, a day, a week, and suddenly you read for the umpteenth time a familiar stanza from Joseph Brodsky's The Thames at Chelsea, and you are struck with beauty. I think that's what God is." During the transportation from Moscow, Dmitry Talantov and Ilya Yashin met on the prisoner train, and at one point Dmitry Talantov started reading Joseph Brodsky poems to Yashin, right through the bars. Even one of the guards stopped to listen. "Hey, who are you?" the guard asked. "I'm the head of a bar association. And you?" "I'm a vertuchai." The guard signed and strolled off. Vertuchai is a Soviet prison slang term for God, something like screw in English. Talantov writes poetry himself, even in prison. I love poetry too. Half of our correspondence consists of it. I send him Samoilov, Galich, Levitansky, and he sometimes sends me something of his own in response. You can see in the letters how he searches for that very word, crosses out something, clarifies something. Sometimes he writes half-jokingly under the correction, "Sorry, I'm illiterate." This supposedly literate man reads all the time, at least when he can. His own, as he called it, book luggage was taken away from him while he was still in pretrial detention in Moscow. When I asked him what books to send him and he gave me a list, at some point he realized they will take them away and burn them at the stake, perhaps together with Rudy himself. Dmitry is holding up very well, joking, reading, learning new things, but of course it's very hard for him. In his letters he writes that he would definitely like to be included in the next exchange if Putin is ready to give up more political prisoners. I really hope that Dmitry Talantov will regain his freedom as soon as possible. And while he is behind bars, he shouldn't be alone. He wrote to me that he is very much supported by, I quote, "the feeling that you turned out not to be the most unfit person, and also the words and deeds of those who have not lost their conscience." I very much remember this line from his letter. Light doesn't need a reason, it just shines. Evil has no chances, it's empty and powerless. Yes, the wind blew out the candle, but we'll light it again. Let the light begin to flame up with our letters to Dmitry Talantov. Please write to him and, if possible, enclose some reply slips. The unused sheets will become drafts to the poems. You can find more about how to write political prisoners in Russia in the description to this video. Thank you.